Hey there, it's Leo from Firecrawl, and in this video, we'll be taking a look at the Hermes Agent. This is similar to OpenClaw, as it does work as a personal AI assistant that you can run either on your VPS or inside of your Docker instance, which is what I'll show you in just a bit. Just to show how potentially relevant this is, over the past weeks, it's gone from 50 stars up to 22,000 stars. And by the way, let me add my own star. Now, the main difference about the Hermes Agent is that it is a self-improving AI agent, the only agent with a built-in learning loop. It creates skills from experience, improves them during use, nudges itself to persist knowledge, and builds a deep model of who you are across sessions. So the more you use this, the more you iterate, then the better it becomes. In this video, I'll show you how you can use the Hermes Agent along with Firecrawl to fetch for web data. An interesting use case for this is setting up the agent to go inside of eBay, find a specific product that you can buy and flip to make some extra money. For our example, we're using Pokemon cards. I actually know very little about Pokemon cards, but I did have a Game Boy Advance where I'd play Pokemon all day, and I just know this is a huge market. In our example, we'll use the CLI to then send a message over to Hermes Agent and have it fetch for Pokemon cards using Firecrawl inside of eBay. Then, when it gets the response back, it then delivers that response back to the CLI. This works the same if you hook Hermes Agent up with WhatsApp or Telegram or all of the other connectors they have available. We can then also prompt the Hermes Agent to do this on a loop every hour or every 2 hour or whatever schedule you'd like it to execute this, so that you're always updated with the latest changes for Pokemon cards inside of eBay. Now, we're going to be installing Hermes Agent inside of Docker, and for those of you that might not understand why we're doing that, it's basically to ensure that you're not adding this to your PC. Because honestly, installing it like this is more for a VPS, where Hermes Agent would have full control over the VPS. But if you give that power over to a Hermes Agent in your operating system, then it would have access to all your files. It could go in and find cookies, authentications, find your environment variables from your project, access documentations that you might not want people to find. And so instead of doing that, let's have Hermes Agent installed inside of a Docker container, and this will ensure that nothing outside of this container can ever be reached. This is basically simulating a Linux instance inside of your computer that would give all the powers over to Hermes Agent to do whatever inside of that container. So it could still do everything, install packages, install skills, go inside of the bash, use CLI, everything without having access to your entire PC. And to do that, it's fairly easy. We just need to follow this documentation, which will be in the description of the video. So grab this first command, which is our quick start. This will create a folder called .hermes in your root directory. And then we'll have Docker install the Hermes Agent inside of that folder, as well as give us a setup that we could just follow along right now. So run setup now, yes. And then in here, you can set up everything you need, like Firecrawl. So let me press enter to start. Here, I'll select which provider I want to use. And since I have a Claude Code subscription, I can just click on Anthropic, select Claude Pro Max subscription, hit enter. It'll tell me to run Claude setup token, that if I have Claude Code installed on my computer, which I presume most people should have. And if you don't, you just need to execute this command right here. Okay, Claude setup token. This will open up my browser with a authorize request that I can just click on the authorize button. This should tell me it's all set. And now I have access to this key. Make sure to protect this key and not to leak it in a YouTube video, for example, because whoever uses it can have access to your Claude tokens. Now, with that key, I can just Command V, add it there. You might not see it show up, but it will be there. Setup token saved. Now, it should ask which model to use. I'll just continue with the Claude Opus 4.6. I'll keep the current Edge TTS. Terminal backend will be the same, so locally. In the select terminal backend, if we were not running this already inside of Docker, you could just select Docker to install it in there. But since we're already executing this inside of that container, then I could just install it on this machine, because this machine would refer to this container right here instead of the actual entire PC. Now, the max iterations options is whenever you're using a lot of tools. So for example, in Firecrawl, we have an interact feature. Every time the agent needs to execute a code inside of the browser to actually interact with that page, it sends off a code. And after it sends off that code, it should understand then what is inside of that component, what changed. then it grabs that information, executes another code. So it's a lot of tool usage that doesn't necessarily fill up all of your context window, but is still multiple tool executions. So you would ideally expect to have a higher usage of tools for that example. But if you're just having an agent that you are not having it use a lot of tools, then you can set this down to 10, for example, just to make sure that it wouldn't suddenly just start looping and waste all of your tokens. So let me go with the default 60. As for tool progress mode, this tells me what's happening, what the agent is doing. It could either be off, so I just get the final response. I can have it be new and just show the tool name, or I can have all and show all the tool call with a short preview, or finally have verbose that shows everything. I like setting it to all because I can understand what the agent is doing. Context compression, let's go with the default. Now the session reset mode is equivalent to when you open up another session inside of Claude.ai, or when you type in /clear inside of Claude code just to reset that context window. I'll select inactivity plus daily reset. Inactivity timeout will be default, daily reset hour. Now we get to set up the Telegram bot. Let's actually add this. And to do this, just go over to Botfather. It could be through this URL, or you can just search for Botfather inside of the Telegram search. In there, use the /new bot command. And now let me add a name for the bot. So Hermes Agent. Now I'll have to select a username for that. So Hermes _agent _Firecrawl _bot. Okay, now I have the token access. Let me just copy this, go back. Let's type in Y to use Telegram. The Telegram bot token will be exactly what I just copied. And as for the allowed user IDs, you just need to message this bot on Telegram. And by talking with that bot, I get my ID down here. So let me paste the ID there. I'll select to use that ID as the home channel. So Y, and then it proceeds to ask me if I want to use a Discord bot. No, I don't. No, I don't want to use a Slack, nor a Matrix, nor that, nor WhatsApp, nor webhooks. There's a lot of options. And then it asks me some questions around the gateway. Let's type in Y and have this run as a user service. Now I get to select the tools the agent will have access to. Let me just hit enter, and it should start asking me for a bunch of API keys. If I do not add those API keys, it'll just skip that. So for fall.ai, I don't want to add it. Let me skip the provider for this as well. And now I get to select the search provider. Let's obviously use Firecrawl Cloud, hit enter on that. Let's head over to the dashboard for Firecrawl, add a new API key called Hermes Agent, create key. That key is right here. Let me copy it to my clipboard, paste it in there, hit enter, and we're all set. Now, after hitting enter, we're ready to go. Back in the Hermes documentation for Docker, we can either run it in gateway mode, and this would allow us to use the Telegram, or we can run it interactively through the CLI. Since I already did set up Telegram, let's run it in gateway mode. So just copy that command, head back to the terminal, and execute it. You might see a warning message like the requested image platform does not match the detected host platform, but if you check your Docker desktop, it should be running just fine. And to test it even further, let's open up our Telegram. Inside of Botfather, there should be the link to our bot, of which we can click on start, and soon enough get a response from Hermes. Now there's a whole lot of commands you can use. Just by typing in /help, you'll see all of them. And this basically shows the commands you have available, as well as the different skills you already have installed and that you can have the agent use. But let's focus on our use case. So I just told it, go to eBay and find me the cheapest Charizard Pokemon card. Use Firecrawl. Let me hit enter and wait for Hermes to do its job. It chose to use the Firecrawl MCP, so it's adding that inside of the terminal, and we get all the logs of what's happening here in Telegram. And honestly, we should expect some improvements from the skills, since it shouldn't be using MCP. And it seems like because it tried doing so, it didn't find the API key that we've added during the setup process. But eventually the results came in, and actually I'd want it to retrieve also the links. So also get me the links. And by the way, there are free tools you could use to scrape simpler websites, but if you really want to have a high-level production scraper that is actually reliable, you can even authenticate inside of eBay, for example, if you'd want it to fetch from your favorite list, then having the Hermes agent empowered by Firecrawl is just a better decision. So here are the links. I'm not sure if there is actually a Charizard for 99 cents of a dollar, but honestly, this is just a quick test. And if you were to set this up to search for a specific product, you would iterate until it actually got just the product you're looking for. And additionally, we could add, please set this as a scheduled task to run every 1 hour. So it understood it needed to use the cron job tool and set a cron to search for the cheapest Charizard eBay search every 1 hour. And if you're wondering how much the agent is spending with Firecrawl on this, it's a matter of 1 credit per scrape, as well as around 2 credits for search. By using a better skill and having access to the interact feature, you'll probably waste a bit more credits, but the beauty of the Hermes agent is that it'll optimize itself to use less tokens every time, just because it then understands exactly what it needs to do and won't need to keep performing the same search and scrape every single time. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you're using Hermes agent in any way, please let us know down in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Till then.